Hello everyone, this is Random Observer here. Now, this is quite a serious video, but I'd like to start with a bit of history. There was a nation several centuries ago that had a very proud, a very prosperous history of its own. Through great trade, through great exploration, advances in medicine, science of the time, some incredible achievements, including currency, and I believe even fingerprinting. They'd done some amazing achievements ahead of their time. But they became riddled with internal conflict, internal strife, a lot of internal division. The other nations took advantage of that, and they took a once great nation apart, and the people lost just about everything. That nation, of course, was China. That was about the 19th century, I believe. Basically, as you will know from your history, imperial European powers basically divided it between them. And of course, the Japanese then did a similar thing in the 20th century. As a Chinese national told me, the reason for this at the time was because the people were fighting one another internally. It made it far easier for foreign enemies to conquer them. And now, of course, things are the other way round. Now we in the West are faced with massive internal conflict, identity politics, political extremism. We basically lost a sense of self and a lot of self-respect, I've noticed, and others have noticed as well. And the thing is, we're focused far too much on internal problems, internal strife and so on. But as we've begun to see in the past few months, even, well, yes, I would say months, I would have said years, but yeah, definitely, obviously with current world events, we've noticed that there are a lot more serious external threats that we should be concerned about. Now, it's no secret that the current rulers, President Xi and President Putin, have very, very clear ambitions. President Putin of Russia intends to rebuild the Soviet Empire. It's quite obvious from his actions. President Xi, of course, has made himself Emperor of China in all but name, and now, of course, he has made it quite clear that he intends to, quote, put China at the heart of world affairs. In other words, to make himself the emperor of the world, almost, in effect. So, the problem is, of course, this alliance between the two nations means that their ambitions are very, very big, and their intentions will not always be peaceful. In the current state of affairs, there is obviously a very, very serious risk of actual conflict breaking out. I'm crossing my fingers, and the world is too. Obviously, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia was a massive shock to everyone, and people's response, I would say, in the West here has been very, very clear. I was going to say although it's a terrible series of events, the one important thing I would say that we've all learned from this is that we do need to take action. And by that I mean we nations, we do need to work together because to prevent things from spinning out of control. Now, obviously, NATO, I'm pleased to see that all the NATO nations have come together because at the present time their purpose is clear, as commentators have said. They've got to help resist Russian aggression, which obviously there's a very real risk. Of course, if this spills any further than Ukraine's borders, it will involve a much wider conflict, and we are all praying that does not happen. But even in the current state of affairs, it's obviously not. It's a terrible thing to have this war going on in Ukraine anyway, and we all pray that it ends. Anyway, in the meantime, we do need to step up our actions on this side, I believe. So, as well as NATO, the EU, I'm pleased to see, is creating stronger ties between the member states, and it does have a very clear purpose. Not only to guard against Russian aggression, but also, I would say, against, unfortunately, Chinese expansion. Now, of course, as commentators have said, this is a very different situation from the noughties. Okay, China does not by any means have a perfect track record. It did not by any means before. There's a history of things I won't go into, but you know the history, and it's not, as with many superpowers, it has not always been a good one. Anyway, however, in the noughties, well, the 2000s as we now call them, we did at least hope that they would open up, that we would increase trade between the nations, that there would be reforms, that China would move towards some semblance of what we would understand as democracy. Their understanding, of course, will be different to ours, but at very least it will be representative of their people, and we would cooperate together, forge good trade links, and generally live a peaceful existence. However, China's new president, President Xi, has very, very different intentions, it's clear. Although the trade routes that I'll start again. Although the Silk Road Initiative, the Belt and Road Initiative I should call it, is on its surface, looks like a fabulous opportunity for nations to trade with one another, it's quite clear who it benefits the most and who would gain control. If the United Nations had been behind it, I would have supported this, but it's clear this is going to be a one-way street. And it will basically, as we've seen, the debt trapping that's been going on, China has been basically aggressively buying up, in effect, the various ports around the world and various properties and so on. Its grip on world land, world property, its presence can be felt almost everywhere. And that's not a good thing, unfortunately, because its rulers' intentions are quite clearly aggressive expansion. So, and I would say, of course, the same with Russia, although that's, again, rebuilding a Soviet empire. In either case, we do therefore, unfortunately, need to be taking strong actions to counter this, because we're already engaged in a trade war. I'm hoping to goodness this does not spill into any further conflict. Current situation with Taiwan, of course, has got us all on edge, and as we know, that is responsible for about, I believe, 60% of the world's chips. So clearly this is not a good situation for it to be threatened, or certainly not for the people either. Anyway, so therefore, to prevent any further conflict, I do believe that strong alliances on the other side of the field are needed. Certainly NATO, also the EU, the Commonwealth, the Quad, and virtually every international alliance which could be used to neutralize the problem, the situation. I think we do need to step up now. So please let us learn the lesson of history. Unfortunately, it is unfortunate for the Chinese people that their leaders did not learn this lesson in the 19th century and fought one another unwisely. Now, we must not make the same mistake. We need to, instead of focusing on our internal strife, we need to focus on the external problem right now. And we need to come together to do it. And I'm hoping, I do honestly hope, that we can work out a peaceful solution. But as one political commentator did say, when you are faced with aggressive expansion, you have to be assertive. So an assertive alliance of other nations is absolutely what we need to do. We need to step up things now and prevent any further conflict and resolve things peacefully. That is all I have to say on that for now. Please feel free to leave comments and hit the subscribe button if you like. Thank you.